I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm here to teach you how to think. Because once you learn how to think correctly, no obstacle can stop you, and no dream is out of reach. Most people spend a large part of their lives complaining. They complain about their jobs, their income, their relationships, their government, and even their luck. But here's the harsh truth: complaining doesn't change anything. It doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't improve your situation. And it certainly doesn't move you forward. Complaining is the easiest thing in the world to do. It's a mental escape, a way to shift blame and avoid taking action. But while it may offer temporary emotional relief, it leads to long-term stagnation. The more time you spend pointing fingers, the less time you spend building solutions. When you complain, what you're really saying is, I see the problem, but I choose to stay in it. It's a passive response to life. It's a signal that you're not ready to take responsibility for your circumstances. And the reality is, the world doesn't reward complaints. It rewards results. The people who rise in life are not those who cry about what's broken, but those who grab a tool, roll up their sleeves and fix it. Think about every great invention, every successful business, every major innovation. It all started because someone saw a problem and decided to solve it. They didn't just sit back and hope someone else would do it. They didn't wait for perfect conditions or someone to hand them the blueprint. They acted, they created. They built solutions in the face of adversity. That's how progress is made. When you complain, your mind becomes consumed with what's wrong, and that mindset prevents you from seeing what could be right. Your creativity shuts down. Your energy drops. Your focus shifts from growth to blame. But the moment you flip that internal switch, from victim to creator, everything changes. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what can I do about it? That one shift in thinking is what separates the average from the exceptional. Life will never be fair. Some people will have more resources, more support, or more luck. But your power lies in your response. You may not be responsible for every problem you face, but you are responsible for what you do next. And if you always respond with complaints, you'll always remain stuck. But if you respond with action, even small steps, you start reclaiming control over your life. There is something incredibly powerful about choosing to create instead of complain. Creation is an act of courage. It requires you to believe that things can be better, and that you have the ability to make them so. It doesn't mean everything will change overnight. It doesn't mean the path will be easy. But it means you've chosen the path of progress instead of passivity. Start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can. Even if you don't have all the answers, move anyway. Even if you're scared, act anyway. Because movement generates clarity. Action brings momentum, and over time, your small, consistent steps will create something far greater than you imagined. Most people sit around waiting for conditions to improve before they start. But the truth is, conditions improve because you start. So stop giving your energy to things that drain you. Stop repeating the same stories about why you're stuck. Stop waiting for someone to rescue you. You have the ability, the responsibility, and the permission to change your life. Not tomorrow, not someday. Today. And it begins the moment you stop complaining and start creating. In a world driven by instant gratification, thinking long-term has become a rare skill. We live in an age where people want results now, success now, money now, validation now. But real success doesn't work on that timeline. It doesn't show up when you're impatient. It shows up when you've earned it through years of consistent effort, delayed pleasure, and strategic discipline. The truth is, anything truly valuable takes time. Whether it's building a career, mastering a craft, achieving financial freedom, or building deep relationships, it all demands patience. People often sabotage their futures by chasing quick wins. They trade what they want most for what they want now. They skip the grind and look for shortcuts, but shortcuts almost always lead to dead ends. They buy into the illusion that success can be bought, hacked, or microwaved. But every person who's built something meaningful knows that it requires long-term vision. It's not just about what you're doing today, but where you want to be 5, 10, or 20 years from now. When you think long-term, your decisions change. You stop chasing dopamine and start chasing purpose. You choose discipline over distraction. You focus on progress over perfection. You understand that the work you do today might not pay off tomorrow, but it will pay off eventually if you stay the course. You start to build with a sense of direction. You invest in skills instead of spending on status. You delay comfort so you can secure peace later. The people who win in life aren't always the smartest or the most talented. They're the ones who can zoom out and see the bigger picture. They plant seeds others overlook. They keep showing up long after others have quit. They're not addicted to the rush of short-term highs because they've anchored themselves to something greater. Something that outlives trends and outlasts setbacks. While the masses get discouraged when results don't show up instantly, long-term thinkers stay grounded. They know that consistency compounds. They understand that growth is invisible for long periods of time, and then suddenly it becomes undeniable. Success is never an event, it's a process. It's a collection of small, smart, intentional actions taken daily over years. But when your mindset is stuck in the present moment, you'll keep making choices that sabotage your future. You'll chase comfort instead of character. You'll chase applause instead of impact. And before you know it, you'll look back and realize you traded your potential for a few fleeting moments of ease. Every time you avoid the hard thing today, you're making your future harder. But every time you choose the hard thing now, you're building a future where life gets easier. It's about sacrifice now so you can have freedom later. It's about choosing the work today that pays dividends tomorrow. It's not flashy, it's not exciting, but it works. Thinking long-term doesn't mean ignoring the present. It means honoring it. It means understanding that what you do now echoes into the future. It's the realization that discipline today creates options tomorrow. That focus today creates freedom tomorrow. That sacrifice today creates security tomorrow. You're not losing anything by thinking long-term. You're multiplying your life in ways others can't see. So if you truly want to win, stop being addicted to the quick win. Stop measuring progress by what you can see today. Start thinking about who you're becoming, what you're building, and where you're heading. Real growth takes time, and the people who make the biggest difference are always the ones who played the longest game. Be one of them. Think in decades, not in days. Failure is one of life's greatest teachers, yet most people run from it as if it's something to be ashamed of. We live in a culture that glorifies success but hides the scars behind it. The truth is, no one wins without first losing. No one builds greatness without first being broken. Every champion you admire has failed more times than they can count, but they kept going. They didn't allow failure to define them, they allowed it to refine them. You see, failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of it. It's a necessary stop on the path to mastery. The people who fear failure often end up doing nothing at all. They avoid risks. They overthink. They delay action because they're terrified of what might go wrong. But in doing so, they miss the very experiences that would make them stronger. You can't grow if you don't stretch. And stretching means sometimes you fall. That fall isn't a sign to stop, it's a sign to start learning. When you embrace failure as feedback, your entire life changes. You stop seeing mistakes as dead ends and start seeing them as detours. You realize that every setback carries wisdom, if you're willing to listen. Maybe it's telling you to adjust your strategy. Maybe it's pushing you to build more resilience. Or maybe it's teaching you patience, humility, and grit. The lessons are always there, but only those who lean into the discomfort will ever receive them. Some people treat failure like a final judgment. They try once, it doesn't go their way, and they quit. But quitting too early is the only real failure. Every failure that you learn from is a step forward, not backward. Every door that closes is redirecting you to a better one. If you keep moving, the difference between winners and everyone else isn't talent. It's not intelligence, it's persistence. It's the ability to rise after falling again and again without losing your fire. When you stop fearing failure, you unlock your potential. You give yourself permission to try bold things. You stop waiting for the perfect plan and start trusting the process. Perfection isn't the goal, progress is. And nothing fuels progress like experience, even the painful kind. Think about the most valuable lessons you've ever learned in life. Chances are they didn't come from your successes. They came from your mistakes, your missteps, your moments of defeat. That's where growth lives. We're often told to avoid failure, to play it safe, to stay in our comfort zones. But comfort never made anyone extraordinary. Safety doesn't produce strength. Struggle does. When you stop treating failure like a curse and start treating it like a coach, everything shifts. You become bolder, wiser, and more creative. You understand that failure doesn't mean you're not good enough. It means you're in the game, you're trying, you're daring. And in a world full of people playing it safe, that already sets you apart. So don't fear failure, study it. Use it. Let it sharpen your focus and deepen your hunger. Let it break you open so you can rebuild stronger. Every time you fail, you're collecting data. You're learning what doesn't work so you can find what does. Failure is not a stop sign, it's a signal to adjust, evolve, and keep going. Remember, the most successful people aren't those who avoided all the pain. They're the ones who turned pain into power. They didn't fear failure, they embraced it as part of the journey. Do the same. And when the world sees your success, they'll have no idea how many times you had to fall just to stand tall. But you'll know, and that knowledge, that strength, is yours forever. Who you spend your time with shapes who you become. It's that simple. Your environment is more powerful than your willpower. Even the strongest minds can be dulled by constant exposure to negativity, doubt, and mediocrity. You may have big dreams, strong discipline, and a clear vision, But if you're constantly surrounded by people who drain your energy, criticize your ambition, or pull you into drama, your progress will suffer. No matter how self-motivated you are, your circle influences your trajectory. When you surround yourself with driven, focused and uplifting individuals, your standard rises automatically. Their energy fuels you. Their habits challenge you. Their mindset reminds you of what's possible. Ambition becomes contagious. Discipline becomes normal. Growth becomes expected. You start thinking bigger, taking more action, and holding yourself to a higher level. Not because someone told you to, but because that's what everyone around you is doing. Excellence becomes the baseline, not the exception. On the flip side, if you're constantly around people who complain, make excuses, or settle for less, you'll unconsciously lower your standards. You'll start believing that it's okay to stay stuck, that average is acceptable, that dreaming big is unrealistic. Without even realizing it, you'll start matching their energy. You'll start doubting your potential, questioning your vision, and slowing your progress to fit in. That's the quiet cost of the wrong environment. It steals your spark without making a sound. You don't have to cut people off with cruelty, but you do have to protect your peace with clarity. You can love people from a distance. You can support them without letting them influence your mindset. Every relationship in your life is either adding to your growth or taking away from it. There's no neutral. And when your future is on the line, you must be intentional about who gets access to your energy. Think about the 5 people you spend the most time with. Are they inspiring you, challenging you, helping you grow? Or are they distracting you, discouraging you, and keeping you small? This isn't about judgment. It's about alignment. You don't have to be better than anyone, but you do need to be around those who want better for themselves and for you. Surround yourself with people who speak life into your ideas, people who celebrate your wins and call you out when you fall short, not to shame you, but to remind you of your greatness. You need people who believe in your potential even when you doubt yourself. People who push you to do more, be more, and dream bigger. You need friends who pray for you, mentors who guide you, and peers who compete with you, not out of jealousy but out of mutual respect. These relationships are fuel. They keep your fire burning when the world tries to dim your light. And if you don't have those people around you yet, don't panic. Create the space. Become that person first. Elevate your own mindset and you'll start attracting others who match your energy. Read books by brilliant minds. Watch content that feeds your growth. Join communities that value self-improvement and purpose. Energy flows where intention goes. When you raise your standard, your circle will either rise with you or fall away. Either outcome is growth. Your circle is either your prison or your platform. Choose wisely. Build your tribe with care. Because success isn't just about what you do. It's also about who you do it with. The right people won't just help you succeed. They'll help you stay sane, grounded, and hungry along the way. So guard your space, elevate your environment, and surround yourself with people who remind you of your power every single day. In a world that changes by the minute, standing still is the same as falling behind. The moment you think you know enough is the moment you start becoming irrelevant. Knowledge is not a destination, it's a lifelong journey. Every skill you master, every insight you gain, every new perspective you adopt keeps you sharp, agile, and ready for the future. The people who win long-term are the ones who never stop learning. They treat every day as a classroom, every conversation as a chance to grow, every mistake as a lesson in disguise. Lifelong learning is not about collecting degrees or certificates. It's about staying curious. It's about staying humble enough to admit that no matter how far you've come, there's always more to understand. The world is evolving, technology is shifting, industries are transforming, and new ideas are constantly emerging. If you're not learning, you're not just standing still, you're falling behind. The most dangerous mindset you can adopt is, I already know that. Because the truth is, the moment you stop being a student, you start becoming stagnant. Those who keep learning adapt faster. They're open to change. They're flexible when things break. They don't panic when the old way stops working. They pivot. They ask better questions. They build better solutions. Learning fuels confidence. It sharpens your thinking and expands your vision. It keeps your mind alive, your spirit engaged, and your purpose clear. When you keep learning, you never grow old. You just grow better. Think of the people you admire most. The innovators, the leaders, the visionaries. What sets them apart isn't just their talent, it's their hunger to grow. They read, they study. They surround themselves with brilliant minds. They invest in their development not because they're weak, but because they're strong enough to know there's always more. And that hunger, more than any strategy or connection, is what keeps them at the top. Even failure becomes a form of learning when your mind is open. When you view setbacks as feedback instead of defeat, you turn pain into wisdom. You stop fearing mistakes and start extracting insight. That's the power of learning. It turns life itself into your greatest teacher. Every job you take, every person you meet, every challenge you face becomes part of your curriculum. If you're paying attention, there's always something valuable to take with you. But learning doesn't happen by accident. It happens by intention. You have to seek it. You have to make space for it. That means reading instead of scrolling, asking questions instead of assuming, listening to understand instead of just to respond. It means surrounding yourself with people who challenge your thinking instead of just confirming your beliefs. Growth is uncomfortable, but that discomfort is a sign you're expanding. In today's world, knowledge is a competitive edge. The more you know, the more valuable you become. The more tools you have, the more impact you can make. Whether it's learning a new language, developing a new skill, understanding human psychology, or staying updated in your industry, every bit of learning adds to your arsenal. It makes you more resilient in a world full of uncertainty, more creative in a world full of noise, more powerful in a world that rewards the prepared. So never stop learning. Read books, listen to podcasts, take courses, reflect on your experiences, ask better questions, be curious about everything, because when you commit to growth, your potential becomes limitless. The world belongs to those who are willing to evolve. The future favors the learner, and the most valuable thing you can do for your dreams is to never let your mind grow cold. Keep learning, keep rising, and never let comfort steal your curiosity. There's a massive difference between showing up to work just to clock in hours and showing up with an ownership mindset. When you begin to think like an entrepreneur, even if you're working for someone else, you elevate yourself far above the crowd. You stop acting like a passive participant and start taking responsibility for outcomes. Instead of waiting for instructions, you begin to take initiative. You look for inefficiencies, find ways to improve systems, and become a problem solver, not a task doer. And that shift right there is what turns ordinary careers into extraordinary ones. Thinking like an entrepreneur doesn't mean you need to start a business. It means you treat your role, your work, and your environment like it belongs to you. Entrepreneurs are obsessed with results, not excuses. They care deeply about outcomes, customer experience, efficiency, and innovation. They don't wait for someone else to fix the problem. They roll up their sleeves and fix it themselves. When you bring that energy into any job, you become irreplaceable. Most people limit themselves because they believe they're just an employee. They do the bare minimum, follow orders, and avoid accountability. But the truth is, every organization needs leaders, people who act with purpose, ownership, and vision. You don't need a title to be a leader. You don't need permission to step up. When you start to treat the company's resources like your own, when you protect time like it's your own money, and when you care about the end result like your name is on the front door, that's when everything starts to change. Opportunities begin to open up for those who think like owners. Promotions, raises, leadership roles. They go to people who consistently go above and beyond. And not because they're told to, but because they choose to, because they care, because they understand that their reputation, their growth, and their future are built in the way they show up every single day. Entrepreneurs ask different questions. They don't ask, what do I need to do today? They ask, what can I create, improve, or fix today? They think long term. They think about value, about growth, about impact. When you adopt that mindset as an employee, you become the one people depend on. You become the person who drives the team forward. You stop being reactive and start being proactive. This mindset also builds resilience. Entrepreneurs expect problems. They expect roadblocks. But instead of complaining, they look for creative ways around them. When you start thinking this way, you stop being discouraged by difficulty. You start being motivated by challenge. That's how you stand out in any workplace. That's how you future-proof your career. Thinking like an entrepreneur also unlocks your creativity. You stop doing things the way they've always been done, and you start looking for smarter, faster, more effective solutions. You challenge assumptions. You take calculated risks. You explore new methods. And when you start thinking like a creator instead of a follower, your work becomes more than a job. It becomes your craft. And here's the truth. When you bring this mindset into your current role, it doesn't just benefit your employer. It transforms you. It sharpens your thinking. It forces you to grow. It teaches you how to lead, how to sell ideas, how to build systems, and how to manage your time like it matters. All of these skills transfer, whether you stay in your current job, climb the ladder, or build something of your own one day. So wherever you are right now, whatever your title is, whatever your paycheck says, start thinking like it's your business. Take ownership, take pride, take initiative. Be the person who sees what others ignore and acts when others hesitate. When you think like an entrepreneur, you stop living passively and start leading intentionally. And that's when your work stops being a job and starts becoming your legacy. When you begin to think like an entrepreneur, Even as an employee, everything about your career changes. You stop waiting to be managed and start managing yourself. You stop doing the bare minimum and start creating real value. This mindset transforms not just your work, but your character. It builds initiative, problem solving, leadership, and purpose. The people who rise to the top are the ones who take ownership, not the ones who simply follow orders. So don't just work for a paycheck. Work like it's your business. When you take full responsibility for your role, your growth becomes unstoppable, your value becomes undeniable, and your future becomes limitless.